Hi everyone, it's Dan Sainsbury here, transformational psychotherapist and healer. And today I want to present to you on the issue of how to access and maintain a true inspired state, and which is synonymous with having being in an optimal state. So how do you access and how do you maintain it? This presentation was actually asked for by a couple of my clients a few days ago, and I presented this as part of a private client webinar. But there's some really good stuff in there, so I wanted to kind of share it with you as well. So what is inspiration? Well, for me, there's two wonderful definitions, or at least kind of working models. One comes from the ancient Hawaiian healing and forgiveness protocol called Ho'oponopono. So just to give you a bit of background on that, for those of you that don't know, Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian forgiveness and healing protocol that came into the mainstream a few years ago through a chap called Dr. Hewlen, Hewlen, who is a native Hawaiian, who was a psychiatrist for about 30 years. He was in mainstream psychiatry. But really, after that length of time, perhaps even before, he kind of saw that psychiatry was not working. You know, his clients would come to him year after year. He wasn't really seeing any kind of qualitative shifts in their healing. So he decided just to kind of incorporate this ancient art, Ho'oponopono, which literally means to make right. And he saw dramatic changes in people. So what Ho'oponopono does is really allow you to heal the subconscious mind, of which it's estimated that between 95 and 99% of our behavior, of our perception, of our choices we make are effervescing from or coming from the subconscious. So the subconscious mind really is the collective data from our past, all the kind of the collective ancestral and societal programs that are running in us. And so the more and more deeply we can heal the subconscious mind, the greater we have access to the superconsciousness, which is synonymous with the higher self. So according to Ho'oponopono, and which obviously rings true for me as well, higher self is that which is the pure creation of God. So that's our higher self, our divine self. And that's never out of contact with God. That's constantly in contact with that divine source. Now, because of that contact, that naturally gives the information we need. So the higher self presents itself in the form of a flow or a stream of inspiration or inspiration, which for me is very high level information, and it feels light, it feels energized, it feels amazing. You can also call it divine downloads. And for me, energy, information, and light are one thing, and it comes in a flow. Now, the other source for definition I come to is A Course in Miracles, which is a wonderful text and definitely worth checking out. In one of the first pages, in fact, of the Course in Miracles, in the 50 principles of miracles, it talks about how miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. So what that means is exactly the same as the Ho'oponopono stance, which is, we need to purify the mind and the body to start with all its junk, all that kind of, all those aberrations and distortions and things that are getting in the way from our past. Once we kind of heal that, and you don't have to heal it fully, but when you're well on the path, you can then get access to this miracle layer, this kind of inspiration layer. And just to give you an example from my own life, back in 2006, when I came across Ho'oponopono, around about 06, I spent a couple of days just using the Ho'oponopono prayer to clear all the kind of all the behaviors and all the kind of emotional pain I had at the time, that I had for most of my 20s. I was going through a lot of kind of emotional challenges, let's say, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, some depression, and I wasn't really very healthy. I was abusing my body. I was working extremely hard in the corporate world, and I was drinking too much. And I came across Ho'oponopono, and it was so good. It was so purifying and so cleaning for me, so healing, that I did it pretty much non-stop for a good day or so. And weird things were happening to my body. So my body was shuddering, it was sweating, I was laughing, I was crying, and I had a kind of glimpse that really we're here to clear all that deleterious data. And the more I did that, the more I could see that my body was then becoming very pure. It started becoming a vessel or conduit for the divine flow. So what's some of the key challenges and blocks to inspiration? Well, some of the key challenges might be, well, you know what? You rarely feel good and inspired. And if you do, you might use it just to simply have fun or chat with friends or kind of use social media, what have you. Also, your inspiration might be blocked by fear, stress, worry. Another challenge you might have is that you're not quite sure what inspiration is supposed to feel like. Another issue you may have is that you may have brief glimpses of inspiration and these optimal states, but they're short-lived. So one day or even 1 hour might feel great and be good, and then the next is terrible. So how do you maintain that? Another one is you're not quite sure how to channel and direct your inspired and optimal states. So the questions that come up are things like, am I doing the right thing in life? Am I on the right track? What is it I need to be doing now? So let's move on to now, what inspiration is not. So for me, there's a very big distinction between inspiration and motivation. So for me, inspiration is this very kind of blissful, inspired, energized state. And quite often you can have, if you're in your inspiration and you're really on and doing your soul purpose, you end up having so much energy. You have more energy at the end of the day than you did at the beginning. Whereas the motivation, when you're trying to motivate yourself, maybe by some kind of ego reward, like trying to make your mark on the world, or I better appear busy, or you're trying to motivate yourself in a job you don't like, that energy very, very quickly dries up because it's not in line with your higher self. It's not in line with what you're supposed to be doing here. So motivation is a very muscular, egoic activity, which really in the end is literally exhausting. It's fatiguing. Whereas inspiration is kind of interminable energy. So, we've all had those moments of true inspiration. So perhaps you can think of a time where you've really been inspired. So you know exactly how it feels. Maybe time starts going very slowly, or maybe it speeds up. What happens to your energy? What happens to your immunity? When you're inspired, you become more strong, more robust. Our body is really doing what it's supposed to be doing. What happens to your thoughts? Do they perhaps soften or quieten? Perhaps they're not even there at all when you're really in the zone. And this is why it's so important to be able to access this inspiration state. So a good working definition for me is inspiration is a very beautiful natural flow state where right thought and right action come as a current of energy, light, information from the divine. So how do we access the inspiration there? Well, as I said, one of the most important things you have to do is to clear the subconscious strata. So clear all the fear, all the limiting belief programs. And this is a very crucial thing. And if you need a hand with it, please let me know. Just send me an email via my website, which is dansainsbury.com, and it doesn't take long. Maybe 1 or 2 sessions, we can clear a lot of it. So great. The way to access this inspiration layer is to ask yourself high quality questions. So I'll let you get a pen and paper to make the notes of these questions. So some of these questions are, what is it you absolutely love to do? What is the very best outcome for your existence? What is the very best thing that can happen with your career? What is the best thing that can happen in your life? So it's really important to sit with those questions a lot. These when you're new to this process, it's really important to do this consistently, not just every day, but throughout the day. Just sit, pen and paper, and just ask yourself these key questions. The other thing I do to access and maintain the state is, first thing in the morning before I get up, is to work with divinity. So I work. Some of you know I work with Jesus, and I ask him to help me to ensure rather that I do divine will for that day, and that kind of allows me to maintain my magnetic north, as it were. I know where that kind of north star is, and I'll go for it. And I use such mantras, things like, I'm extending all of God's love and all of God's light infinitely and in all directions, now and forevermore, amen. So that's a very strong mantra you can use to just kind of reset yourself and get yourself into that divine state, because ultimately we are our higher self. We've just dipped into this kind of lower body, lower ego type of fear-based, guilt-based behavior that's very body orientated, but that's not who we truly are. So this is really about accessing that eternal state and embodying it and loving it. So those trigger questions, those high quality questions from the previous slide, that gives you your vision, that gives you your soul vision, that gives you your soul reason for being here. And once you've accessed that vision, it gives you a template for existence, a kind of gold standard or kind of blueprint or template for existence. So once you've really seen why you're here, life becomes very easy, or at least a lot easier, because you kind of know why you're here. And when you're engaging with this work, when you're actually doing that vision, implementing it, that is inspiration. That's where the inspiration is coming from, to inspired to carry it out. So maybe you want to ask yourself a very high quality question to implement that vision. So you might ask yourself, what's the very best thing I can do today, in line with that soul vision? And when you're inspired, you'll just know often the very next best thing to do. So vision and its implementation can come as a packet of information when you're in that flow. You'll see it, and you'll see how to do it. It becomes a very straightforward process. Now, when you're in your inspiration, when you're doing your soul's work, the ego can flare up. So it's the ego will try and sometimes pull the rug from underneath you, and we see this all the time. So you might be really full in your flow, then, and you might have an amazing day. Then the next day, or maybe even that day, the ego will flare up with all these very weird bodily aches and pains. Maybe an old, an old issue might flare up. Procrastination might kick in, or a bit of fear, a few limiting beliefs. So obviously, you can either clear them, heal them, or you can simply disengage from them, what the Course in Miracles calls positive denial, and then just simply get back to work. Because when you get back to work and you have that pleasure of a completed project, and the project's based on inspiration, it will leave these wonderful new neural pathways in the mind. And the more you do of it, the more kind of expansive, the more expanded your being becomes. And after a while, you can never go back. The watermark gets higher and higher, as it were. And then the more you do this, the more you start to embody your higher self, and it becomes a very joyful experience. So in conclusion, inspiration is our natural state, it's our natural divine state. So we can use quality questions to trigger it. And you can work with divinity itself. You can ask divinity to help you to do God's will, do divine will, which is what, for me, true inspiration really is. And that will allow you to stay aligned with your soul, your higher self. You can use powerful mantra to clear the egoic chatter of the mind, and to reset to the divine state. And the other good thing you can do is to work with a mentor, a coach, or a healer, and he or she will just keep you on par, keep you there, and do what needs to be done. So finally, for people listening to this presentation, I'm very happy to offer 20% off sessions with me until next Friday. And so these sessions will allow me to heal and clear your negative and limiting beliefs, get you to those optimum states, allow me to delete the fear. It also allow me to use certain techniques to get you really clear, crystal clear on your vision and how to implement it, and a lot more besides. So if you're interested in that, just send me an email via dansainsbury.com, our website. In the meantime, thanks so much for listening, and hopefully hear from you soon. Thank you.